So apparently over and over again we've had faithful deflectors. We've had faithful to the Constitution deflectors, which, you know, they call the faithless something. So the faithful deflectors. In 2016 we had 11 faithful deflectors. 2016, 11 faithful deflectors. So whose election is it? Looks like Joe could be winning, but there's 3 people that voted for Colin Powell. 1 voted for Faith Spotted Eagle. 3 of the electors of the 538 elite oligarchs, right, of the 538 electors to the Electoral College. 1 voted for Faith Spotted Eagle. 3 voted for Bernie Sanders. 2 voted for John Kasich. 1 voted for Ron Paul, and then somebody voted for another one. And so the top 3 is a tie, right? Top 3 is a tie. In 2016, the contingent election in the House would have been between Hillary and Donald and Colin Powell and Bernie Sanders. They both tied since they both had 3 votes. 3 electors voted for Bernie Sanders. 3 electors voted for Colin Powell. And if both Donald and Hillary had been deprived of the 270 majority Electoral College votes, then Colin Powell or Bernie Sanders could very well be president today. Michael Baca in Colorado voted for John Kasich instead of Hillary Clinton. Supreme Court case is wrong on that, but Michael Baca is a badass. Michael Baca is a badass. A lot of people said they was going to, deflect, but only Michael Baca did. There was an electoral college rebellion that happened in 2016. 11. So if Joe only wins by, 1-270, well, 11 changes that. If anybody votes for anybody else, and what if they deflect to, the Fuhrer? And so 2004, this is the history. This is the history of the Electoral College. I think 176, 200. It's been a lot of times when there's been, faithful deflectors over and over and over again. So let's just, this might be boring to you, but this is the history of the Electoral College. In 2004, you had an anonymous Minnesota faithful deflector who was pledged to vote for John Kerry instead had voted for John Edwards. And you would suppose it's probably Edwards, right? So it didn't count. 1892, you had a faithful deflector from Oregon. Then it was supposed to, Oregon, I don't know. So it was supposed to vote for Ben Harrison, right? Instead, he voted for James B. Weaver, right? John Kerry, Edwards, neither one won. Ben Harrison was the president, so I guess James B. Weaver lost. So 1960, this is when you had 15 faithful deflectors. In 1960, you had 15 faithful deflectors. These faithful to the Constitution deflectors, this is 15. This is 4 more than 2016. So you haven't only had a rebellion in 2016, you had a rebellion in 1960. And this is Henry Irwin. So Henry Irwin is from Oklahoma. He's a faithful deflector, and he had pledged to vote for Richard Nixon, but instead he voted for Harry Byrd. Now, Henry Irwin wanted everybody to vote for Harry Byrd. He tried to get all the Republicans, 218 Republicans, to change their votes. And guess what? 8 from Mississippi and 6 from Alabama did. So there was 15 faithful deflectors did not vote for Nixon. Instead, they voted for Harry Byrd. Harry Byrd was just, almost, he would have been, in the top 3. So he might have become president. Who the hell is Harry Byrd? Apparently, you had 15 electors that thought he was better than Nixon. And that's, a lot of these deflectors in 2016, they were scattered. In 1960, it was, one candidate. They definitely wanted Harry Byrd over Nixon. In 1872, can you slurp any louder? Thank you. In 1872, Horace Greeley had died before the Electoral College had met in December. So 3 electors went ahead and voted for Horace Greeley, as they pledged to do. Now, this is a fascinating case. In 1872, the other 63 had faithfully deflected, and they voted for others. 18 of the faithful deflectors voted for Ben Brown. And the 3 faithful deflector votes for Horace Greeley were invalidated by Congress. So this is the opposite of what we do today, 1872. So Horace Greeley is going to die, right? Well, that's who they were pledged to. That's the elector. You got to vote for the elector. You don't have a choice, right? That's state law. You'll get fined $1,000 in Washington. You got to vote. You pledge. You got to vote for who you pledge for. Now, what happens if the guy dies, right? So 3 electors voted for Horace Greeley, 63. So that's 66 faithful deflectors because the man died. What do you expect? The man died, and you just expect people to go in there and just go ahead and... No, they did the reasonable thing right there, but they used the Electoral College. They faithfully deflected. That was 1872. 2000, Barbara Lett Simmons pledged to Al Gore, but protested it and eventually just didn't vote at all. In 2000, right, this Gore versus Bush. He only lost by like 2 or 3, and she, just didn't vote at all because of Washington, D.C.'s colonial status. She was protesting. So, Gore could have won. It was super close, right? But it was like 2 or 3, so her one Electoral College wouldn't, but it would have, So, hell yeah, that's Barbara Lett Simmons, badass, out of 2000. 1988, you had Margaret Leach pledged to vote for Michael Dukakis. And instead, Margaret Leach voted for Lloyd Benson to protest the winner-take-all nature of the Electoral College. So, Margaret Leach, badass. Barbara Lett Simmons, badass. Henry Irwin, badass. Right? Michael Baca. This is just, over and over again, the American people just keep saying, this is bullshit. What the fuck is going on? This right here, this shit right here is bullshit. 1976, a faithful deflector, Mike Patton, was going to vote for Gerald Ford. Instead, he voted for Ronald Reagan. 1972, Roger McBride pledged to vote for Nixon. Instead, voted for John Hospers, the Libertarian. 1968, Lloyd W. Bailey pledged to vote Nixon. Instead, voted for George Wallace. 1948, Preston Parks is a faithful deflector from Tennessee. Supposed to vote for Truman, instead voted for Strom Thurmond. Jesus Christ, Preston. So Preston Parks, that was a little disappointing there. Oh, instead of Nixon, George Wallace. What the fuck, Lloyd Bailey? And Roger McBride, though, he voted for the Libertarian, John Hospers. Faithful to the Constitution deflector, Mike Patton, right, voted for Reagan. So that was, kind of prescient right there. So faithful to the Constitution. So Mike Patton's a badass. Roger McBride's a badass. Margaret Leach is a badass. Barbara Lett Simmons is a badass. And Michael Baca is a badass. In 1832, all 30 of the faithful to the Constitution deflectors from Pennsylvania. So 60, oh my God, there's 68, but that was Horace Greeley. But that's 60, right? 66. That's probably the biggest one so far, 1872. But here in 1832, all 30 of the, Pennsylvania electors faithfully deflected. They didn't vote for the vice president, Martin Van Buren. Instead, they voted for William Wilkins, and Martin Van Buren's going to win that election. 1828, 7 of the 9 faithfully deflected. The Georgia electors faithfully deflected, 7 of the 9. And they did, instead of voting for vice presidential candidate John C. Calhoun, they voted for William Smith. John C. Calhoun won his election. 1821, faithful deflector William Plummer, supposed to vote for James Monroe. Instead, he voted for John Quincy Adams, who wasn't even running for the election. James Monroe was going to win. So there's been, 176 faithful to the Constitution deflectors, 107, almost 200. There was one in 1796, Samuel Miles. He was supposed to vote for John Adams. Instead, he voted for Thomas Jefferson. John Alien and Sedition Acts Adams was elected president. Anyways, 1808, the presidential election, there were 6 New York electors who were supposed to vote for James Madison. Faithful to the, Constitution, they deflected. 6 from New York, they deflected. Instead of voting for James Madison, James Mr. War of 1812, loser Madison, they voted for New York Governor George Clinton. And, James War of 1812, Madison wound up winning that presidential election. So it's kind of crazy to me. There's a lot of history there. So for anybody that's like, no, that's not the purpose, it totally is the purpose. You're totally allowed. That's the point. The Supreme Court got it wrong. I don't know what the Supreme Court's scared of. It's almost like when they allow third parties, it's almost, they tell themselves by how much they attack third parties because just the chance just somehow the 1 in a million chance that a third party could win, you gotta fucking attack that and you go ape shit and go against. Why would you? That's so crazy. That's so crazy. How weak. That just shows how weak you are. And instead, you're for democracy. Come one, come all. The libertarian, the green, debate any and all. They're all on the ballot and they're all, human beings and therefore worthy of respect. And they have dignity. So what's the Supreme Court scared of over and over again? And the biggest thing, when the faithful to the Constitution deflector stands up, the most that they do is grandstand and nothing more. So why pulverize our Constitution in the smithereens? Kagan, Supreme Court, you got, that's, hopefully Amy Coney Barrett actually, OACB, she should be the president or the chair or whatever of the Supreme Court, because ACB, if the intent, the original intent, the textualist, the original intent, the strict constructionalist view of the Constitution is going to be held up, therefore the Electoral College is real, it's legit. The point is to overturn the election. It's a kill safe switch. It's a, it's a backdoor. It's a overturn the demagogue, overthrow the government, overthrow the demagogue that got her elected. Yeah, sure, the people might vote for some dumb fuck, but the elite electors of the Electoral College, the elite electors of the Electoral College wouldn't allow some stupid fuck to become president. They are the check on our democracy. So some stupid fuck is up there. No. You got to get to the Electoral College and then undo that, right? And then there is no stupid fuck. And then we have actually a good president. Wouldn't that be incredible? Horace Greeley almost became president or something. I don't know what's going on. But, yeah, there's a long history. Long history. I guess I ended off on this. Who are Colorado's electors? There are 9 electors in Colorado. They voted for Hillary Clinton, right? So the 9 electors are Celeste Landry out of Boulder. That's who replaced Michael Baca. So actually, no Celeste Landry. That's some bullshit. You always find a scab somewhere, right? So Michael Baca, Terry Phillips, Mary Beth Corcentino, that's Pueblo, Louisville, Jared Sutton, Greeley, it indicated, Horace Greeley, right? It indicated he would not vote for Hillary Clinton. This is a city out of, Colorado. Robert Nemanich, Colorado Springs, had an early December not planned to vote for Hillary. Amy Dreyer, Greenwood Village, and Nolan Arvada. Senator Rollie Heath of Boulder and the Honorable Polly Baca of Denver indicated she would cast her vote for an alternative Republican candidate, but did not. Only one person was brave enough to be the constitutionally protected deflector, the patriotic dissenter, the person that says, hey, the emperor wears no clothes. Michael Baca. Only Michael Baca, right? So a lot of these, who the hell are these people? And then who are going to be, the electors this year? They're going to make sure, got to make sure that Michael Baca debacle don't happen again, right? That's what they're going to be like. So they're going to probably vet these, over and over again. But any of the candidates in any of the electors in any of the states. So I would encourage that for the American people to find out who your electors are and put the pressure on. Put the pressure on. Tell them to vote for the candidate that the state votes for, or tell them to deflect. It doesn't matter. You're a citizen. Those are the representatives, the electors, right? It's a transient thing. They just, kind of just form out of thin air, out of nowhere. And like I said, in 1824, they, kicked Andrew Jackson out. Andrew Jackson won the presidency with the Electoral College votes and the popular vote. So he had both. The total amount of Electoral College votes beat the rest, and the total amount of votes beat the rest, but it was a plurality, not an absolute majority. They kicked him out. John Quincy Adams is going to become president in 1824. So there you go. There's some history of the Electoral College, the faithful to the Constitution deflectors. There is some history of the faithful to the Constitution deflectors. All right. Peace.